Welcome to the Sharkpreneur podcast with Kevin Harrington and Seth Greene. Kevin Harrington is the inventor of the infomercial, one of the original sharks from the hit TV show Shark Tank, and has generated over $5 billion in TV and digital direct response sales. Seth Greene is the world's first trusted authority on cutting-edge direct response marketing, a best-selling author, and the only 3-time Marketer of the Year nominee. On the podcast, Kevin and Seth interview sharkpreneurs who share straight talk on what it takes to explode your business.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com. Welcome to the podcast. This is your host, Seth Greene. Today I have the good fortune to be with Emily Dinu from Numinous Capital. Emily, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, Seth. Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. Let's go back in time a little bit. How did you get started?
Yeah, so I can't go too far back, but basically, so I guess the path to venture was not a traditional route for me. I got here by building businesses, scaling startups, and operating funds for a long, long time. So yeah, venture was never in the plan, but once I saw how the game worked, I launched Numinous to back visionaries in sectors that create both economic and human level value in trillion-dollar sectors that most VCs don't touch.
Awesome. I'm sure the longer version of that story probably could be in a book somewhere. Can you tell us a little bit about, you started to allude to it, about what differentiates Numinous from all the other VC firms?
Yeah, VC was really created to support scalable software startups. Software startups are super well funded, but there's a huge gap especially in the US, for funding toward companies that maybe require a little bit more capital and time to grow and mature, scale, and eventually exit. And a lot of these companies have either an engineering or scientific background as well, or some component. So it's a little bit more complex. It's not straightforward. It's not quite as fast, but it's a definite gap. And that has really impeded, I think, progress and innovation here in the US. And we're also not capturing all this brilliant value through investing in industrials and infrastructure, deep tech, and the like. So yeah, and two, it's more challenging, more interesting to me as an investor. It kind of makes my mind work a little bit more. And I tend to also really admire the little bit nerdier scientific and entrepreneur rather than the charismatic sort of startup guy that we see in our minds.
That makes a lot of sense. What are some of the challenges you're helping those companies solve?
Yeah. So obviously capital's first and foremost, and capital pacing. So teaching them to focus on non-dilutive funding first and how to structure their fundraising, and really having them think backward from exit as well, in articulating their vision in the way that is not just science, it's a company. So I kind of help on that end, and as well, the capital piece. So investment, obviously, we pace things out a little bit differently than most VCs do. So we take a patient capital approach, which extends a timeline to exit to about 11 years rather than the traditional 7-year exit. So yeah, just supporting these entrepreneurs and these different types of businesses in the best way that we can.
And have you had any turnarounds or any exits so far?
Yeah, so really, we've had one through a syndicate, which we do both syndicate matching as well as committed fund matching. We've had one exit, one company that we invested in last year, actually, really more on the AI piece. It was acquired by Microsoft, so fortunate there, but everything else is really early. I'm on fund 1. We'll see, but I'm hopeful. I invest only in the best entrepreneurs and the coolest businesses that almost seem like science fiction, but actually, again, have create real tangible value for everyone, really.
Awesome. How are you sourcing deal flow? How are you evaluating those folks and making your investment decisions?
Yeah. Yeah, so two different things, right? So deal flow, unique deal flow is really what every VC says that they have. Typically, VCs share deal flow amongst one another. So there are those relationships that I have with VCs that I've known for a really long time, but also through economic development firms. We have strong relationships with many economic development firms here in the US who sort of know exactly what's going on in their areas and also how they can support other companies in their areas as well. So, kind of going back to some of that non-dilutive funding. And then evaluating entrepreneurs and companies. I think you start with the founder, right? You start with that first conversation, that gut feel. But also you're looking for a big juicy market to address, something not super niche, something that can't be blown up by AI in the next, 1 to 3 years. So defensibility is also a big deal for us, as well as novelty.
That makes a lot of sense. You've come at this a circuitous route. What's your biggest challenge now?
Yeah, I, it's really, I just want to know everything that's going on at all times, and that's hard to do. Luckily, I have a brilliant team that can sort of keep their fingers on the pulse of the future as well. But I guess challenges, I don't have too many. I think it's dreaming up what the future is going to look like, so we're ahead of the game rather than reacting to current market. So that's always something sort of like a puzzle that we take pleasure in participating in. But I guess it's a challenge.
Who is an ideal investor for you?
Gosh, someone that, yeah. So I think a lot of the corporate structuring of investment into VC is a little bit tricky because that aligns a lot more with maybe those corporations' agendas and everything like that. So I really like working with individuals that are as visionary as I am, that appreciate maybe a little bit different route to success. They don't expect sort of traditional out of anything, and they see the value proposition in investing in folks that are approaching things differently.
How do you work with entrepreneurs to help them improve their pitch?
Yeah, good question. So this varies from entrepreneur to entrepreneur, but one big thing, and I just last week wrapped up a pitch competition with academics specifically. It is always sort of articulating the business case, showing that they know that this isn't a science project, but this is a company, and articulating that. That's so crucial. And also getting people to loosen up a bit and show themselves during the pitches as well. If that's sort of your best route to success, I think, is really that's really how what charisma is as well. It's just sort of being comfortable in your own skin. So I try to advocate for that as well. But it really does vary entrepreneur to entrepreneur. Everyone is different.
You mentioned a passion for some of the nerdier side. What trends or emerging technologies are you looking at that you think are going to shape, let's say, the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, especially with all this onshoring. I think, obviously defense tech is huge right now, but infrastructural stuff, I'm seeing probably far too many drones, but I get excited about things like energy. So I'm super into nuclear energy. I've done, multiple deep dives into startups innovating in that space. And, there's an argument for and against startups being in the nuclear space, but I think overall it's a positive. I get excited about biotech and health, advancing health. I think if we realized how far behind we are with health tech or biotech innovation as compared to China, we would all be a little bit more motivated to invest and support scientists creating, innovative solutions to problems that we all deal with. I get excited about ocean tech. I think there's so much to be discovered on the ocean floor that we haven't quite tapped into yet. So I don't know. Like I said, it feels like science fiction, but if you think about how life has changed really in the past 5 years, life kind of feels that way too. So I'm no stranger to entertaining these wackier ideas and visions for the future.
Hey, well, those who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who change it.
Yeah,
Do you,
absolutely.
what role, if any, does sustainability or environmental or social impact play in your investing process?
Yeah. So I think that's an interesting question. And I have to, I think, be careful at how I approach it. But, you know, if we're innovating properly, I guess sustainability included, and we're having things function better than they currently are, that's a natural offset. I certainly don't want to take away from something good just to, make a quick buck or have an investment be successful. So we are aligned with investing in things that don't destroy lives or environments and stuff like that. And I guess on the social piece, the way I look at it is if the companies I'm investing in are creating valuable jobs and creating purpose for Americans, once more, that's a really good social impact piece rather than addressing specific social problems through investment. I think having a purpose and a common goal is a really good thing for everyone. So that's more of how I approach things.
That makes sense. You talked about investing in the entrepreneur and you talked about charisma and showing who you really are. How much of your process is quantitative and about the numbers in the market, and how much of it is about the emotional connection?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the emotional connection is one. And it's more about seeing vision in someone and seeing someone who again is crazy enough to think that they can change the world and shape shift and reality bend, right? So that's really more of a gut feel thing. Like I said, I've worked with entrepreneurs since I was super young. We didn't get into the background, but I was raised by one and raised in an entrepreneurial family. So I that's that pattern recognition that every VC thinks they have, and that's sort of the test there with the qualitative. But on the quantitative, yes, we do major market diligence. We spend a good amount of time speaking to researchers and going into the numbers and charting out what returns may look like later on down the line. So we balance both. The qualitative comes a little bit more naturally to me. So learning that market approach has also been something as I've learned, it's a skill that I've gained by working with other startups, getting VC funding and everything like that. But they're both super important.
You talked about syndication. What type of partnerships or collaborations are you typically looking for?
Yeah. So syndicate investing is really cool. It's a really nice way to dip your toes into startup investing. I think it's more interesting than angel investing because you can sort of like carve out a larger allocation and track things a little bit better from there. So for me, it's anyone who's maybe interested in our thesis and the companies that we invest in. I think it's a good way to sort of us out too on the operational side and how we function. But really anyone passionate about the things that I've already covered here, creating jobs, creating value, actually creating impact. Those are good partners for a numinous syndicate.
You talked about being in some really fast-moving industries that are on the cutting edge. How do you stay on top of all the technology changes?
Yeah. Well, that's one of the gifts of I think working in VC, right? And that's part of why I love it so much. You really are at the bleeding edge of what could be, what never was because someone wasn't able to execute on it and what should be, right? So it's talking to startups, talking to other VCs sometimes, taking the time to research too. I mean, I feel like most VCs, and I can say this from working with other funds, they don't really put any work into their diligence or into, yeah, envisioning what the future might need. And again, they're a little bit more reactive than they are proactive in investing, which is counterintuitive with venture. So, yeah, yeah. I'm so sorry, I forgot the question.
That's quite all right. Your passion is obvious.
Thank
What do
you.
you like best about what you're doing?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just talking to cool people. The learning aspect and also knowing that the companies that we're supporting are doing really good things. That's the best part about it. But for me, monetizing, learning, just I've always been a bit of a nerd myself as well. I love knowing things. I love exploring new ideas. And I love meeting people that are just as passionate as I am. And this is a good space to do it.
Awesome. Well, we know your time's incredibly valuable. We greatly appreciate you spending some of it with us. Emily Dinu from Numinous Capital, where is the best place for our folks to learn more about what you're doing?
Yeah, so I think a great place to start is LinkedIn. Look me up there, but also numinouscap.com. You can get a feel for how we structure our investments, our process, founder archetype, etc.
Awesome. And full disclosure, we are not making any investment solicitations or recommendations on today's podcast. This has been Seth Greene for Sharkpreneur with Emily Dinu. Emily, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, Seth.
Thank you, everyone, for watching or listening, and we will talk to you or see you next time.
Why do so many businesses struggle while others seem to explode overnight? Do you wish you had the secret to this type of exponential growth? Now, I've scaled more than 20 businesses to over $100 million, and it's not just luck. In my new book with Mark Tim, Mentor to Millions, you'll learn the repeatable framework I use in all my business ventures for massive success. Order at kevinmentor.com and get over $1,000 in bonuses. Head to kevinmentor.com.